Your new data warehouse loads data. The dashboard's open. The vendor says the project is finished, but finance numbers still disagree with operations. The overnight batch misses its deadline. Nobody can explain what happens when a source arrives late, and the people expected to run the system did not receive a usable handover. This is a common trap. A project can technically run and still be impossible to accept, operate, or safely extend. In this video, I will show you a 5-day, fixed-scope evidence review for deciding whether the project is ready, conditional, or should be put on hold. Teams often collapse 3 different questions into one. Question 1. Was the feature built? Question 2. Can the system operate under the agreed business conditions? Question 3. Is there enough evidence for the buyer to accept and inherit it? A successful job log answers only a small part of question 1. It does not prove data accuracy, peak hour performance, recovery, ownership, release discipline, or handover quality. So do not begin a recovery by asking, who is to blame? Begin by asking, what exact decision must the evidence support? The first scope should be small enough to retest. Choose one critical report chain, one batch that exceeds its window, one data domain, one database performance problem, or one group of acceptance clauses. Then freeze 6 items: the system and environment, the business time window, the target outcome, the evidence you are allowed to read, the actions you are not allowed to perform, and the person who owns the final decision. If the team cannot define one review object, the first deliverable is scope clarification, not a guessed root cause. You do not need to upload production data to begin. A safe first input pack can use redacted or aggregated material. First, a short statement of the acceptance target or business impact. Second, component and version summaries without host names, credentials, or connection strings. Third, metric definitions with grain, cutoff time, and owner. Fourth, aggregated performance or data difference evidence. Fifth, a logical dependency and recovery summary without the real production topology. And sixth, an index of test, change, release, operation, and training evidence. If the evidence contains customer records, personal information, real credentials, sensitive topology, or unauthorized contract text, stop and move it to a controlled process. Now evaluate the project across 6 dimensions. 1. Performance and timeliness. Can it meet the agreed workload, concurrency, batch window, and freshness target? The evidence must include the conditions, not only the best observed number. 2. Data trust. Do the source, warehouse, and report use the same definition, grain, cutoff, late arrival rule, and reconciliation method? A green ETL status does not prove a correct business result. 3. Architecture and recovery. Are dependencies, single points of failure, monitoring, restore objectives, and rollback boundaries known? A diagram without evidence is still only a claim. 4. People and responsibility. Is there a clear owner for business definitions, technical operation, escalation, and retesting? If critical knowledge exists only in one person's head, the project is not fully handed over. 5. Standards and change. Can requirements, designs, tests, approvals, releases, and operational documents be traced to one another? This is not an audit conclusion. It is an evidence gap review. 6. Delivery and acceptance. Are the scripts, documents, training, issue register, and retest method actually usable by the receiving team? Each dimension needs 4 columns: the question, the minimum evidence, the current finding, and the condition for retest. Day 1 freezes the scope, permission boundary, forbidden actions, and success condition. The output is a scope sheet and evidence directory. Day 2 checks whether the evidence is usable, consistent, and from the same time window. Missing evidence becomes a named gap. It is never silently filled with an assumption. Day 3 performs the 6-dimension review. Findings are ranked P0, P1, or P2 and connected to an owner. Day 4 converts findings into a draft decision. Every issue needs a due date and a repeatable retest method. Day 5 hands over the final evidence matrix, the unresolved items, and the next options. 5 days is a target time box, not a promise to compress missing input or unsafe verification. If the scope changes materially, pause and redefine the work. Ready means the blocking items are closed, critical evidence can be repeated, and the remaining work does not prevent the agreed use or handover. Conditional means the project can enter the next stage, but the limitations, owner, deadline, and retest method are explicit. Hold means AP0 risk, missing critical evidence, conflicting results, unclear ownership, or an unapproved production action prevents a defensible acceptance decision. P0 covers data loss, major incorrect results, unrecoverable conditions, serious security risk, or critical business unavailability. P1 blocks launch, acceptance, core timeliness, accuracy, capacity, or handover. P2 does not block the current stage, but must remain in the own delivery plan. The final acceptance decision still belongs to the parties defined by the contract. A technical review supports that decision. It does not replace it. A fixed scope evidence review does not automatically include production load testing, data correction, parameter changes, deletion, migration, failover, recovery, or architecture redesign. Those actions may be appropriate later, but they require their own scope, authorization, rollback, and acceptance evidence. The review also does not guarantee launch, acceptance, performance improvement, lower cost, or dispute resolution. Its value is narrower and more practical. Replace a vague argument with a bounded, testable decision package. If you are inheriting a database, ETL, warehouse, or reporting project that works but cannot be accepted, start with one review object and the minimum input pack. The description contains one fixed scope review entry. Do not send production credentials or raw customer data. Start with a redacted system summary, the business impact, the evidence you already have, and the actions that must remain prohibited.